Few movies in Hollywood history came this close to collapsing under their own ambition, or spinning so dangerously out of control as the Ten Commandments. What you see on screen feels biblical, but what happened behind the scenes was even crazier. Real deserts, real danger, real injuries, thousands of extras, thousands of animals, and a production so overwhelming, it nearly killed its director. This is the 10 Commandments behind the scenes. 20 unbelievable facts that prove the making of this film was more epic than the movie itself. This wasn't just a movie, it was a cinematic uprising, built with colossal sets, experimental effects, and filmmaking risks no studio would dare attempt today. And just wait, because one of these facts was so shocking, even the cast didn't believe it until they saw the footage. And another comes from a single tiny decision by an actor that changed the entire visual identity of a character, so much that DeMille rebuilt scenes around it. Grab your staff. We're parting 20 shocking secrets from Charlton Heston's Moses to Yul Brynner's Pharaoh. Let's begin. Number 1. The film used 14,000 extras. DeMille didn't want movie magic, he wanted real crowds. Some scenes, especially the massive exodus, used over 14,000 performers, creating one of the largest coordinated casts ever assembled on film. When you see those wide shots of people stretching to the horizon, that's not special effects. That's thousands of humans, sweating, shouting, and moving through the desert, for real. To put that in perspective, that's more people than most music festivals. Coordinating them required military-level logistics and enough crowd control to make a stadium manager weep. And where there are thousands of people, there are also thousands of animals. Number 2, over 15,000 animals appeared in the film. Horses, camels, oxen, goats, even exotic species brought in just for background authenticity. More than 15,000 animals were used, requiring 24-hour feeding, wrangling, and veterinary teams just to keep the production going. Some days the animal staff outnumbered the actors. One crew member described it as directing a zoo during a jailbreak. Every single day, wranglers worked around the clock to keep the production from descending into complete animal anarchy. And if you think wrangling thousands of animals was wild, the way they created a literal miracle is even crazier. Number 3, the Red Sea parting was created using 2 giant water tanks. The legendary Red Sea wasn't CGI, it wasn't matte painting, it wasn't animation, it was thousands of gallons of water pumped into 2 enormous tanks, filmed, then played in reverse to create the illusion of water pulling apart. Wait, you mean the most iconic miracle in cinema history is just rewind? Yep. And it's still more impressive than most modern CGI. Audiences in 1956 had never seen anything like it. Some even believed the studio built a full-scale mechanical ocean, but that wasn't even the most dangerous effect. Number 4, the burning bush was a real in-camera effect. No CGI, no animation, only experimental layered exposures and hidden lighting tricks. The effects team spent weeks perfecting those flames, using multiple exposures with strategically placed hidden lighting elements to create the illusion. The result looked so convincing that some viewers thought the studio had literally set a tree on fire. And honestly, it still looks better than half the CGI in modern blockbusters. But the effects weren't the only things burning. Number 5, Charlton Heston grew his real beard for Moses. Heston insisted on growing the beard himself, no fake prosthetics. He said it helped him feel the weight of the character. Literally, method acting before method acting was cool. And it shows. His performance shifts noticeably as his real beard grows longer through the movie. You can track Moses' transformation just by watching Heston's facial hair. And here's where it gets personal. He committed so deeply to this role that he even brought his own family into the production. Number 6, Heston's infant son played baby Moses, the baby drifting down the Nile. That's Heston's real son, Fraser. DeMille felt the child had a natural innocence the scene needed, and casting him added an unexpected layer of authenticity to one of the film's most iconic moments. Fraser later said he was probably the youngest actor ever to work with DeMille. That's a flex that never expires. And speaking of DeMille, his dedication was extreme. Number 7, Cecil B. DeMille directed after a heart attack on set. Midway through filming, DeMille collapsed with a heart attack brought on by exhaustion. Doctors ordered him to stop working. They told him, "Continue directing and you will die." DeMille's response? He showed up 3 days later, directing from a chair, wrapped in blankets, refusing to slow down. He directed the rest of the film while recovering, because in his mind, stopping meant abandoning 14,000 people in the Egyptian desert. The crew later said, if Moses could part the sea, DeMille could part death. At that point, DeMille wasn't just directing a movie, he was waging war against mortality, and he brought that intensity to every casting decision. Number 8, DeMille screen tested hundreds of actors for Moses. He auditioned candidates from around the world, including unconventional choices, before selecting Heston. One reason? DeMille thought Heston resembled Michelangelo's statue of Moses. He hired him partially based on a piece of Renaissance sculpture. Talk about a casting brief. Find me someone who looks like they were carved from marble by a Renaissance master. But Heston's appearance wasn't the only thing that got special treatment. Number 9, Moses' voice was enhanced using echo chambers. To give Moses a divine, commanding presence, Heston's lines were recorded in giant echo chambers and layered for depth. The sound team carefully layered the audio to create that otherworldly, almost supernatural vocal presence. It gave his voice an almost supernatural weight. Powerful, booming, unforgettable. Every word sounded like it was coming from a prophet who'd just spoken directly with God. But Heston wasn't the only actor fighting for a commanding presence. Number 10, Brynner worked out intensely to avoid being overshadowed. Brynner didn't want to look physically weaker than Heston on screen, so he lifted weights constantly, even between takes, sometimes still in costume. He started an intense workout regimen during production, doing push-ups and lifting weights to make sure he could physically match Heston's muscular presence. Extras joked that if Brynner and Heston ever had a flex-off, production would lose half a day. It worked. Pharaoh looked every bit as powerful as Moses, but he didn't need to worry. He had something even better than muscles. Now, this is where the secrets get unbelievable, because in exactly 2 facts, you'll discover how a split-second hairstyle decision completely transformed one of cinema's most iconic characters forever. DeMille loved it so much he rebuilt entire scenes around it, and it became the defining look that actor carried for the rest of his career. So if you're enjoying these wild discoveries and you don't want to miss which moment changed everything, hit that subscribe button right now. And what happens next became the most iconic silhouette of Brynner's entire life. Number 11, Brynner begged DeMille not to cut his head shaving scene. Here it is, the moment that almost got cut. Brynner didn't just shave his head for the role. He wanted audiences to see him shave it. He believed the moment transformed him into Pharaoh, to watch him go from prince to god king in real time. DeMille initially thought it was unnecessary, but Brynner insisted, arguing it added power and authenticity. DeMille watched the dailies, loved it, kept the scene, and it became one of Brynner's most iconic moments ever filmed. One impulsive creative choice, decades of iconography, that bald, regal look became Brynner's signature for the rest of his career. And that gold costume he wore? It wasn't as glamorous as it looked. Number 12, Brynner's gold breastplate was shockingly heavy. The armor wasn't lightweight plastic, it was real metal. Brynner said wearing it felt like strapping on a car door. He wore it for hours under blazing desert heat, and by the end of each day, he'd lost pounds in sweat alone. Combine that with the desert heat, and it's a miracle he didn't collapse. He looked like a god, because he baked like one. But wardrobe nightmares weren't limited to him. Number 13, Anne Baxter's gowns were so tight she could barely sit. Her outfits looked stunning, but were extremely restrictive. Between takes, she often had to stand perfectly still because bending or sitting could damage the costume, or her ribs. The gowns were so tight and ornate that sitting was nearly impossible. She'd just stand there between takes, trapped in haute couture that doubled as a medieval torture device. Beauty is pain. Ancient Egyptian beauty is agony, but the hardest element on set wasn't fabric, it was sand. Number 14, real Egyptian locations added biblical realism. Yes, the production actually traveled to Egypt, Mount Sinai, the Valley of the Kings, and desert landscapes that looked exactly like they did thousands of years ago. Nothing in Hollywood could replicate that authenticity. The light, the sand, the heat. It all looked biblical because it was. DeMille took his entire crew to shoot in the actual landscapes that inspired the story thousands of years ago. The scope, the scale, the atmosphere. It all came from authenticity. This was the last time Hollywood got permission to film at many of these sacred sites, but filming in real deserts came with a brutal problem. Number 15, Sandstorms constantly destroyed takes. Camera equipment jammed, makeup melted, costumes ripped, whole scenes had to be reshot. Sandstorms hit so frequently that production became a daily battle against nature itself. Some days, the crew spent more time digging equipment out of the sand than actually filming. DeMille reportedly joked, "At this point, I'm directing more weather than actors." Crew members described it as trying to film during a constant low-grade apocalypse. Every take was a gamble. Every scene was a miracle if they got it in one piece. Even props didn't always behave. Number 16. Moses' tablets were made of plaster. They looked like carved stone, heavy and ancient, but they were actually lightweight plaster, so Heston could lift them and smash them safely during that intense pivotal scene. This allowed Heston to dramatically destroy them without breaking his hands or his back. Moses carrying the word of God in breakable plaster. The irony is biblical, but one prop was very real. Number 17. The golden calf was cast from real metal. Yes, a giant metal sculpture. It weighed hundreds of pounds and required reinforcements to keep it from collapsing. The golden calf wasn't painted plastic, it was hammered metal, weighing several hundred pounds. Workers had to constantly reinforce the base to prevent it from collapsing during filming and crushing someone underneath. They built a real false idol. Let that sink in. It was one of the heaviest practical props of the entire production, but even that wasn't the priciest part. Number 18. The Ten Commandments was one of the most expensive films ever made. The budget, $13 million, the largest in Paramount's history. Adjusted for today, that's over $140 million, basically Marvel-level spending for a film with zero CGI. For context, most films at the time cost around $2 million. DeMille spent more than 6 times that. It was such an insane financial risk that it's a miracle the studio didn't have a collective heart attack alongside DeMille. Even by today's blockbuster standards, that's an extraordinary gamble, and that money didn't just go to effects and locations. Number 19. More than 60 speaking roles filled the screen. Hundreds auditioned. Only a handful made it in. The result? One of the largest speaking casts of the decade, giving the film a sense of scale no other biblical epic could match. Most films have 10 to 15 speaking roles max. The Ten Commandments had over 60, each one carefully selected from thousands of auditions, each one adding depth, authenticity, and logistical nightmares to an already impossibly complex production. And now for the strangest and most unexpected fact. Number 20. DeMille introduced the movie himself on camera. Before the film even begins, DeMille appears on screen. He explains the story's purpose and addresses the audience directly. A bold, unusual choice in 1956 and almost unheard of today. It's like the director stepping out of the heavens to personally bless the movie, which honestly tracks, because making this film required divine intervention just to finish. But it's the perfect encapsulation of who DeMille was. A showman who refused to let his work speak for itself because he had too much to say. From its thousands of extras and real Egyptian locations, to its massive budget, dangerous effects, and the sheer force of DeMille's will. The Ten Commandments remains one of the most ambitious films ever attempted. Hollywood will never build another film like this. Not because they shouldn't, but because they literally can't. Even Spielberg called this production terrifyingly ambitious. If you enjoyed this journey into classic Hollywood chaos, drop a comment telling me which epic you want to explore next. And don't forget to subscribe for more legendary behind-the-scenes deep dives just like this. And if you want another wild production story where the behind-the-scenes madness rivals the on-screen magic, check out our video on Close Encounters of the Third Kind, where Spielberg built a full-scale alien mothership, then had to figure out what to do with it. Filled with secrets so strange, they feel almost extraterrestrial. Watch that next. You won't regret it.